Morning. Well, our theme for the year has been building godly families. We want God to bless our families. We want God to build our families. And lately, I say lately, it's been a while. We've been talking about romantic interest. We've been talking about dating. We've been talking about marriage. We've been doing all that through the Song of Solomon. If you would, go ahead and turn over to Song of Solomon 7, please. This is a day that there's probably several in the room. You've been waiting for this day because, Lord willing, we're going to finish Song of Solomon today. But I hope that God's been glorified. I hope our relationships have been helpful or helped by this series here that we've been doing. Song of Solomon chapter 7. By the way, I'll just reiterate what many people have said. It's good to be here. It's good to worship together, and there's people that we haven't met before that we get to meet today. It's just so good to worship together. We should be worshiping throughout the week, but boy, is it great to do it together. So praise God for that. Now, here in Song of Solomon, last week we saw where this relationship, they've handled conflict. They've seen conflict. They reconciled their conflict together. And their relationship, it doesn't just barely recover or hang by a thread. It deepens. It gets better. It gets deeper than it was even before they got married. And this morning, as we finish the Song of Songs, what's really cool about this song is it sort of summarizes the main points of this entire song. And so, not really intentionally, I'm not making these things come out at the end to say, let's do a summary of Song of Songs. It sort of does it for us. We're going to see a summary of some of the main points of the entire song today, as Lord willing, we finish it this morning. And what we're going to see are the principles of a love that lasts. And it's really cool. And we're going to finish this beautiful song this morning. So we're going to pick up down in verse 10 of chapter 7. And it's possible that this is connected to the previous section we looked at, or this might be a later snapshot that's in the future from what we looked at last week. But they're still in a spring of romance. This couple, they're still in a spring of romance. So let's start reading chapter 7 and verse 10. The Shulamite says, the Shulamite woman, she says, I am my love's. His desire is for me. Come, my love, let's go to the field. Let's spend the night among the henna blossoms. Let's go early to the vineyards. Let's see if the vine is budded, if the blossom has opened, if the pomegranates are in bloom. There I will give you my caresses. The mandrakes give off a fragrance, and at our doors is every delicacy, both new and old. I have treasured them up for you, my love. If only I could treat you like my brother, one who nursed at my mother's breasts. I would find you in public and kiss you, and no one would scorn me. I would lead you. I would take you to the house of my mother who taught me. I would give you spiced wine to drink from the juice of my pomegranate. May his left hand be under my head and his right arm embrace me. And then she addresses the young women of Jerusalem in verse 4. She says, I charge you, do not stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time. So in this section, the Shulamite woman is talking, and she is just so confident in her relationship. There's security, there's safety in the love of her man. His desire is for her, back there in chapter 7, verse 10. And notice it's not a burden to her. That's not burdensome to her. She loves that that's true. She feels safe. She feels secure in his care for her. And then here, this is really important in this section. The woman initiates time together. The woman initiates intimacy together. It's almost like she says, let's go out together. Let's go out to the fields. Let's go out to the gardens, to the orchards. Let's go see if everything is budding and everything's blossoming and everything's blooming. Let's go enjoy this spring together. And what's significant here at the end of Song of Songs is that when we've seen this happen before, it's the man asking her, hey, come out. Let's go enjoy the spring together. Let's get away for a while. But here she's saying, you know what, let's get away for a while. Let's go enjoy this spring of romance, and there we'll enjoy some intimacy. So earlier it was the man who's the one bounding over hills and jumping over mountains to get to the woman and saying, hey, let's go enjoy the spring. Here it's the woman, and she's saying, let's go spend some time together. There I'll give you my caresses. She's initiating the time together. She even initiates the lovemaking that probably occurs here. But then there's this really weird line in chapter 8, verse 1. Maybe you saw it and you were like, what in the world is going on there? Where she says, I wish you were like my brother so I could kiss you without scorn. I mean, I know we're in Kentucky, but that might be a little weird even for us, right? Well, apparently in this time period, it was socially acceptable for you to go kiss your brother or sister on the cheek, or your mom or your dad, you could go kiss them. But husbands and wives, it was really looked down upon to kiss in public. And so what she's saying is, I wish that I could kiss you in public without scorn from other people. It's really a beautiful thing, even if it might sound a little icky. It's a really pretty thing that she's saying here. I wish I could just kiss you in public with no scorn and nobody would think anything of it. That's what she desires from him and for with him. And then she says, I'm going to lead you. I would take you, I would lead you. And by the way, that word for lead is very much like a general and an army. I would lead you, or like a shepherd and the sheep. We've seen previously in the song where she wants to be the sheep and she wants him to be the shepherd for her. But here she's saying, well, I'm going to lead you and I'm going to take you into my mother's house. And then we get some very intimate things that we've seen before. We saw a lot of these same phrases in chapter 2. We saw the same phrases back in chapter 3. So here, overall big point from this section is the woman is initiating time spent together and even initiating the lovemaking that's seen here in this spring of romance, where before it was the man who was initiating. Here we see the woman do it. So here in verse 4, though, we've seen this phrase before. In verse 4, chapter 8, verse 4, she offers this same warning. Don't awaken love until it's the right time and the right place where it's completely pure and completely right to do so. And think about this. They're later in their relationship. And where is she coming from as she says this? She's able to come from this completely carefree, completely pure, completely clean conscience. And she's just saying, this carefree confidence that I have in initiating time together and intimacy with my husband is because I waited until the proper time and proper place. So she's able to look back completely pure, completely clean conscience, nothing in her head that's holding her back. That's God's design. And what she's saying, and we're going to see it a little bit more later, is that when you follow God's design, intimacy is better, the marriage is better, and your conscience is clean and better. So one of the clearest points from this overall section that I want to make, especially when we're talking about this summary of the Song of Songs about a love that lasts, is that a love that lasts is not one that runs on autopilot. A love that lasts is one where the couple are actively pursuing each other and joyfully sharing time together. Actively pursuing each other and enjoy anything together. So here we see the woman initiating, she is inviting, she's calling to him and engaging with her man. Let's go spend time together. Let's go enjoy each other. Maybe an issue in our relationships isn't like last week where it's outright conflict. Maybe it's not outright conflict, but maybe it's sort of the quiet neglect over time where you're roommates and you just go through the normal everyday routines and it just gets a little bit stale after a while. Maybe we stop spending time together, we stop speaking to each other affectionately, and we stop sharing joyful moments together. Well, here the woman is initiating that. Let's go spend time together. Let's go be intimate together. And notice something about this. Well, first let me say this. Maybe we're willing to go spend time with the boys, out with the guys, or maybe we're willing to go spend time out with the ladies, out with the girls, but we don't spend time together. We'd rather be with them than with our spouse. Well, we got to fix that. But notice this too. This is really important. Spending time together and being intimate together is not a burden to this woman. I think that's significant. It's a delight for her that she wants to invite and engage with her man. And then on the other side of this, I'm going to preach to myself on this because I don't know if this is a man thing or just a me thing. So I'm going to say it to myself. Maybe Caitlin will say, hey, why don't we go do this thing together? Let's go out and do this thing. This is where my head goes. Anybody relate to this? Well, how much is that going to cost? What about all these other things we got to do? And I got work stuff I got to do, so maybe another time. Or just straight up, let's be real, we've all been here. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't feel like it. So here's my wife engaging and inviting, let's go spend time together, share these joyful memories. And maybe I saw some nods and laughs, so I assume I'm not the only one. We can shut it down. And maybe we're not doing it intentionally, but we just sort of shut it down because we get in the routine and the everyday Well, a love that lasts is one where the couple actively pursues each other and joyfully spends time together when you can. So, I'm preaching to myself. Maybe somebody else can get something out of that. So if you're married, when's the last time that you actively pursued time together with your spouse rather than just coexisting in the regular routines and rhythms of everyday life and joyfully share memories together? All right. Let's keep reading because there's more. And that's one of the main points of the entire song is that it has to be intentional. But let's keep going because we're going to see another overall main idea in the Song of Songs. Look at chapter 8, verse 5. We'll read verses 5 through 7 together. Verse 5. The daughters of Jerusalem, or an outside narrator, sees the couple from a distance. And look what they say in verse 5. Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning on the one that she loves? The Shulamite speaks to her man and says, I awakened you under the apricot tree. There your mother conceived you. There she conceived and gave you birth. Set me as a seal on your heart, as a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death, jealousy as unrelenting as Sheol. Love's flames are fiery flames, an almighty flame. Your translation might say the very flame of the Lord. A huge torrent cannot extinguish love. Rivers cannot sweep it away. If a man were to give all his wealth for love, it would be utterly scorned. Now, some commentators suggest that maybe this is a later snapshot, so maybe this is the couple in old age, and maybe that's the case. Or they could just be coming back from their sort of second honeymoon, going out in the spring. Whatever it is, it's a beautiful setup in verse 5, isn't it? You've got this narrator, the daughters of Jerusalem, and you can just imagine this picture. Who is this coming up from the wilderness? And she's leaning on her man. So just imagine this couple, maybe they're older, they've got their arms linked, and the one, maybe they're, you know what I'm talking about, the whole hand thing on the hand thing, whatever that's called. And then she's got her head rested on the shoulder, and they're just talking together. And they're walking toward whoever it is, the daughters of Jerusalem or the narrator. Isn't that a beautiful picture? It's a wonderful picture. So who is this? And there we see the Shulamites talking to her man while they walk wherever they're walking to. But they're talking together. And so you see this beautiful picture of this couple leaning on each other and walking together and talking to each other. And when is this in Song of Songs? This is after conflict. This is after reconciliation. So their relationship is deeper because they worked through the conflict together. Now, here where they're talking to each other, and she says, I awakened you under the apricot tree or the apple tree. That's an allusion all the way back to chapter 2. And that's the moment where they knew that their love for each other was mutual. It wasn't just one person had feelings and the other person didn't, but they knew it was mutual. And that's where their love was sort of born. Now remember, she just charged the daughters of Jerusalem, don't awaken love until the proper time and proper place. And because they didn't do it the wrong way, they did it the right way, as they're reminiscing, this is a great time to reflect. They're thinking about how their relationship started and how they've worked through some things, and they're able to reminisce in a positive way. It's a very good thing. And just like you see, just where your mother conceived you, where you were given birth, just like there's labor pains with birth, there can be labor pains in a relationship. And they've seen that, haven't they? They've been through the conflict, they've worked through the conflict, and their relationship is deeper because of that. And so they're able to reminisce and talk together and enjoy each other and say, you know what? You're still the girl that I married. You're still the guy that I married. I'm still into you for sure. And so where their relationship is deeper, even though they've handled these conflicts together, what I love about verses 6 and 7 is how the Shulamite describes love itself. And this is one of those really big main points of the entire Song of Songs. She asks him to put her as a seal or as a signet on his heart and the strength of his arm. Now that would be sort of like a signature. You know, you think about even what we have, maybe a signet ring that would put in the wax. It's sort of like a signature. But what it would show is permanence, belonging, security. And what she wants is to be important to her man. She wants to be as close as possible to owning Solomon's heart as possible. Set me as a seal on your heart. She wants to be important to him. And she gives the reason for that too. Love is as strong as death, and jealousy is as severe, as unrelenting as Sheol. A mighty flame. Yours might say, the flame of the Lord. What's really significant, where your translation might say, the flame of the Lord, did you know that the name of the Lord hasn't been used once in Song of Solomon up to this point? It's only here. So I think that's really important for us to notice what's going on in this section. Love is powerful, and it's not something to be trifled with. Just like the Lord is powerful, and he's not to be trifled with. And so love comes from God, nothing to be trifled with. And then it mentions jealousy. Did you hear in our scripture reading this morning about God's jealousy? Do you remember that in James chapter 4? There's a certain type of jealousy that's good and right in relationships. God is jealous for his people because they belong to him. The Spirit in James chapter 4 is envious of us, and that's a good thing because we belong to him. But then there's also this bad sort of jealousy, isn't there? Where it's paranoia and controlling and you name it. And I think that shows us really the main point of this section. Love is very, very powerful, and it can be good, it can be right, it can be pure in the sight of God, or it can be abused, it can be misused, and it can be dangerous. And so because love is such a powerful thing in this song, the message is you've got to be careful. Be careful with love. And then in verse 7, she continues just how powerful love is. Many waters can't quench it. Rivers won't overflow it. It can't be bought with all of the riches in the world. And that's a big deal because Solomon's probably the richest person in the world at this time. And she's saying, all the money in the world, you can't buy it. So how do you obtain love? Well, it's the picture that we've seen throughout the entire Song of Songs, by giving yourself to somebody else. It's not money. It'd be scorned that way, but it's giving yourself. And I read one writer said something, 2 priceless gifts equal 1 priceless love. So 2 people giving themselves to another person equals 1 priceless love. Only by giving yourself do you get this kind of priceless love. And so a second clear point I want to make from this section, that's really one of the main points of the entire Song of Songs, but specifically comes from this section, is that love is powerful and love is covenantal. It's not casual language. It's not shallow affection. It is serious, and the strength of love is strong. Covenant level commitment. Here it says love is as strong as death. It can't be extinguished, and valuable enough that the most rich man in the world couldn't buy it. You can spend all the money in the world, you still couldn't buy it. And so a warning from this section is don't treat love lightly. Don't treat love lightly. And our culture treats love lightly, doesn't it? It treats it extremely lightly. You fall into it and you fall out of it with a gust of wind. Some people think you can pay for it with physical touch, and that's not love. That's not the picture that we see in the Scriptures. The Scriptures present love as something sacred, powerful, and binding. So what that means is we've got to be really careful who we give our heart to. Who is it? No, I'm just kidding. You got to be really careful who we give our heart to. Don't enter relationships casually. Don't confuse attraction with covenant readiness, because love is powerful and it needs to be protected. It can be very deeply damaging if mishandled. One of the things that's great about the song here, they're able to have their arms locked and she's leaning on him. It's a beautiful picture, and they're reminiscing about their story, and it's positive. It's fun. It's a good thing to do. But maybe some people in the room, and definitely people that we know, when you reminisce on your marriage, it's one of the worst mistakes you've ever made in your life. And so love is powerful. We've got to be very, very careful who we give our heart to. Love is powerful. It's covenantal. And so that seriousness of love leads us to another thing that the song emphasizes and has been emphasizing the entire time. And that's how love is formed and how it's protected before marriage. So in this next snapshot, we're going to see some more reminiscing happening. And specifically, it's going to be the Shulamite story, even before Song of Solomon chapter 1. And maybe she's speaking for her brothers, or her brothers actually speak here. So let's read this next section. Let's read verses 8 through 12, please. 8 through 12. The brothers of the Shulamite are speaking here, and they say, "Our sister is young. She has no breasts. What will we do for our sister on the day she's spoken for? If she's a wall, we will build a silver barricade on her. If she's a door, we will enclose her with cedar planks." The Shulamite says, "I am a wall, and my breasts like towers. So to him, I have become like one who finds peace." Solomon owned a vineyard in Baal Hamon. He leased the vineyard to tenants. Each was to bring for his fruit 1,000 pieces of silver. I have my own vineyard. The 1,000 are for you, Solomon, but 200 for those who take care of its fruit. Now here in this section, while they're still reminiscing about their relationship and how their relationship came about, the Shulamite's brothers speak up here, and they're talking about how they protected the Shulamite's honor and her purity before she ever matured. And so they were preparing for her future marital happiness even before she had ever matured. So they say she could choose to be a wall and be standing firm in her purity. And they said, hey, we'll build a silver barricade around her. We'll honor her for that. But if she chooses to be a door, which opens and closes, hope you get the picture there. If she chooses to be a wall and open herself and close herself at a whim, what are they going to do? We're going to board her up with cedar planks. We're going to restrict her freedom a little bit for her future well-being. They're looking out for her purity and her honor. And so, right here, it doesn't seem like the Shulamite has any, bitter feelings about this at all as they are reminiscing together, because she says, I'm a wall and my breasts are towers. So not only is she a wall, she says, I'm a fortified wall. So she knew about, the strength of her own desire to stay pure, the strength of her own convictions that she would stay pure. I'm a fortified wall. So much so that now I'm one who finds peace in his eyes. I think she's maybe pointing to Solomon or thumbing over to Solomon. I find peace in his eyes. So it's an honor to her man as well. And it seems like Solomon was the owner of the vineyard, and maybe her brothers are the ones leasing it out. And so Solomon expects some of the fruit of the harvest. He expects this certain amount. And then, there's this girl working out in the fields. You remember that from chapter 1? She had this deep, dark tan. Her brothers actually mistreated her a little bit by making her work out in the fields. But then that leads her to seeing Solomon. And Solomon sees her. And so then she says, well, I have my own vineyard. Talking about her own body. Look, Solomon might own all these vineyards. My brothers might be tenants on this vineyard. But guess what? I have my own vineyard. I'm the owner of this vineyard, and I choose what this vineyard does. And so she chooses to give herself to Solomon. She says, the 1,000 are for you, Solomon. And then I almost wonder if she's sort of like, yeah, and 200 for those who took care of the fruits. Talking about her brothers. Like, yeah, I guess they did help me out a little bit. And what's really great about this whole section is the Shulamite, her brothers, they're reminiscing, they're looking back on all the things that they did maybe to protect her purity. And the Shulamite's honor, her purity was strengthened and it was honored before their marriage. So now she has this state of peace. I don't know if you have family gatherings where you go and someone brings up that story. You're like, would you just stop it? However old I am, stop talking about that thing. But here she's able to look back and be like, yeah, things are pretty good. You know, I can't really complain that much. There's no bitterness held, no resentment, even though her brothers did mistreat her. She said that back in chapter 1. There's no bitter feelings. She wasn't a loose woman. She wasn't a cheap woman. She valued her purity. She valued herself. So now at this stage of their relationship, she herself, her family, and her husband, they can all look back with a clean conscience and feel good about themselves. It's great. And so one of the points I want to make that really has been emphasized in the entire Song of Songs, we've seen it from chapter 1 all the way to chapter 8, is that purity before marriage creates peace within marriage. Purity before marriage creates peace within marriage. And our culture today has gotten so far away from this, and maybe many of us in the room have fallen for it. Our culture has gotten so far away from this. But this section shows us that what is built before marriage will directly affect what happens in marriage and what's experienced in marriage. It's a beautiful thing that the woman, her family, and her husband can look back with a clean conscience, with peace as they look back. It's a beautiful, wonderful gift, and no resentment, no bitter feelings about it, because there's peace now. Now, even me talking about this might be really uncomfortable for some of us in the room who didn't keep ourselves pure, but it's one of those things that we have to talk about this. This is part of God's design. It's not that the boundaries before marriage are supposed to restrict your joy. It's supposed to increase it down the line, that there's peace and clear conscience looking back. And so if you're dating or you will date in the future, please don't ask, how far can I go now? Please ask, how am I going to look back on this once I'm married one day? It's a much better question to ask. And I always feel compelled to talk to those of us who didn't keep ourselves pure, who've fallen into the lies that our culture tells us. One of the things that we can't skirt around or skip around is that is sin. The physical intimacy before marriage is sin. It just is. And we can't skirt around it without lying. One of the things that is absolutely true, and I want to mention first, is that the grace and mercy of the Lord is far greater than any and all of our sins combined. And He will forgive you for that sin if you repent and come to Him. Without a doubt. I am fully assured of that. But one of the things that's also true is that's something that can't be taken back. And so where the Shulamite, her brothers, and her husband are able to look back with a clear conscience and with peace, well, maybe for many of us in the room, I don't know. But you know, even if you have a wonderful marriage, it's still there, isn't it? And it'll never go away. Even if you have a wonderful marriage, you can't take it back. And so God's design is that you're able to look back with peace and a clear conscience. But sometimes we get in the way. And if you haven't kept yourself pure, I want to repeat what's said in John chapter 8. Jesus says to the woman who's caught in adultery, go and sin no more. Don't let that be a license to sin more. Go and sin no more. Okay, let's finish out the Song of Songs. Can you believe it? We're down to this part. Go look at verses 13 and 14 together, please. Verse 13, the man says to his woman, you who dwell in the gardens, companions are listening for your voice. Let me hear you. The Shulamite says to her man, run away with me, my love. Be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountains of spices. So many seasons have gone by in their relationship, and their relationship has grown deeper. One of the coolest things about a lot of the things in chapter 8, didn't go into detail about it just for time's sake. A lot of these things are exactly the same as chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 4. And so maybe they're in older age now, we don't know. Maybe they're in old age. But the things that they're saying to each other are the same as when their relationship first started. Isn't that cool? So here the man says, hey, we're listening for your voice. Let me hear you. He says a very similar thing in chapter 1 and chapter 2. So even though they've been in a relationship for a while, they've been through a lot of seasons, he still wants to hear her voice. He's not tired of her voice. He still wants to hear her voice. I love that. But then she responds to him in the exact same way that she responds in chapter 2. and in chapter 4. He might be older at this point, but she still wants him to be like a gazelle and bound over those hills and leap over those mountains to get to her and to have intimacy together. It's a really beautiful thing. No matter how much time has gone by, they're further into their relationship, but some of the intensity, some of the feelings, some of the thoughts, it's like, hey, even if your body can't jump over those mountains, I still want you to pursue me like that. And I really love that whole thing in this section. So a lot of the things, the intensity of their relationship is the same as when it first started. It's a beautiful thing. I love that. And that's how the song ends. It ends with that. Isn't that kind of a weird way to end it? But that's how it ends. They still love each other. They still like each other. That's different. They've been through winters. They've been through springs of their relationship, and their relationship is deeper because they continue to pursue each other. And what we've seen is in this entire song, when love is pursued intentionally, when love is guarded carefully, when it's built on God's design, it produces some amazing things. Peace, joy, and covenant love that lasts. Man, that's cool. That's the Song of Solomon. That's it. I hope that God's glorified by this first and foremost, but I hope that our relationships and our marriages will be helped by this. Now, as we're going to close this morning, I do want to connect this to Jesus by way of analogy. Even the best marriages out there, even in this poetic ideal relationship, there's conflicts. There are imperfections, there's insecurities, there's selfishness, there's pride, all those things come in. There's real pressures that we face from everyday life, things that just come onto us that are difficult to handle. As great as the love story of Song of Songs is, and by the way, the claim Song of Songs is this is the greatest song that's ever been written, there's a better one. And it really is the greatest love story that's ever been told, and that's the story of Jesus. He continuously pursues his people. By the way, I'm about to go down these points. He continuously pursues his people, not only when they pursue him, he continuously pursues his people when they are unfaithful to him, who cheat on him over and over and over again for self, for something else. He continues to pursue them over and over and over again. Jesus is the one who binds himself in covenant love, and he keeps his side of the covenant without fail. Has Jesus ever failed? No, he hasn't. But we do. And we fail over and over and over and over again, and he keeps his side of the covenant over and over and over and over again. And his love is stronger than death. He's defeated death, cannot be extinguished. And so one of the things I want to point out, as wonderful as good marriages can be, even the best marriage on the face of the planet, as great as that can be, our spouses will never, ever, ever, add in 100 evers, our spouses will never, ever be able to satisfy the deepest needs of our soul. Never. Even if you have the greatest marriage on the planet of all time, they will never satisfy the needs of your soul. Only the love of Jesus can do that. Only the love of Jesus can do that. And so as we close this book, and as we close this entire series, if you are not in Christ, you want to study the scriptures together to know why you should, we'd love to do that together. Or if you studied, you know that you need him and that you need to join him in covenant relationship. He will be faithful even though you're not. I promise you that. And if you want to start that and you want to be baptized for the remission of your sins, we got water. We would love to assist you with that. Or if you've not kept yourself pure in your relationship with Jesus, and let me just tell you, none of us have. If you've not kept yourself pure in your relationship with Jesus and your relationship is distant, or you've stepped out on him and you need the prayers of the congregation, or we can encourage you in some way, please, there's an opportunity this morning. Come to the front while together we